Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Strategic Business Influencer, my series for leaders who know that in today's evolving world, trust is the greatest competitive advantage. Today, I am joined by three dynamic leaders who came together to form Ponte Advisors, a firm designed to bridge legal, financial, and operational expertise for companies navigating complex transitions. Together, Erin, Tom, and Keith are redefining what it means to advise companies in high stakes situations by combining legal acumen, financial strategy, and operational know how under one roof. I am going to let each of them share just a quick introduction of their backgrounds so you can hear directly from them on how their experiences come together to shape Ponte's unique approach. So we'll go ahead and just start with Erin. I'd love to get just a quick background on you, and then we'll go Keith, then Tom.
So, Paige, I'm a lawyer, and I have my law firm, Stark PLLC, and we've been in practice. We've had a business for 25 years, and I've been practicing law for over 25 years, and representing financial institutions and private credit companies and private equity, and doing basically just cradle to grave matters, that any issues that they kind of come up with in their lines of business, and full service for all these types of corporations as well. And that's so I've been doing that for 25 years, and that is how I came to meet Keith and Tom.
Amazing. Keith, we'll have you go next.
Sure, and that's correct. I met Erin in one of our larger cases that we worked on, which was quite an interesting one. My background has been in real estate, all different facets of real estate. I was involved in setting up a brokerage firm in Florida. I was also involved with setting up a developer services program within that company. Then I was hired by a large publicly traded company, worked with them, and then we saw the downturn of the market that came about in 2008. Mm-hmm. And as a result, it just kind of was happenstance. I got called in to help out on a very large real estate receivership matter, and they wanted someone with the pedigree to do that. And so I was hired to do that, and did that all through the years. I am currently wrapping up a very large residential master plan community, about 958 residential units. And that's pretty much where things are right at the moment.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, Keith. And then Tom, we'll have you introduce yourself.
Well, thanks. Again, Tom Minick, and have a multiplicity of backgrounds, but after graduate school, really started in large leverage lending with a large financial institution that was based in the Midwest, and then migrated to a non-bank lender that did a lot of the same type of activity, but also the opportunity to get involved with various restructuring activity, both on the portfolio side as well as on the new business side. So this is where I really got my first indoctrination into the restructuring side of the business. And subsequent to that, was involved as a partner in a private equity firm, left there to set up a series of my own funds, and then ultimately founded a merchant banking firm that kind of brought all those elements together. So direct investing, we had our own broker-dealer, and I'm a licensed securities professional. Also had an operating consultancy and a financial restructuring component as well. And so had the benefit of dabbling in all those different areas to try to bring all those pieces together to add value to given clientele.
Wow. Well, I will say this is an incredibly special episode because we have all three of you on at once. So I am very excited to dive in with you all, and I'm just so grateful for you all to take the time to be here.
Appreciate the opportunity.
So I want to dive in and start from the beginning because it's very unique what you three have created here. What inspired you to start Ponte Advisors, and how did that big idea of blending each of your expertise for, turnaround advisory come about?
Paige, I'll start with that. Keith and I connected earlier this year just to kind of talk about what's going on in the marketplace. because my line of business modified to some degree and the targeting clients the law firm was going after, because financial institutions, for the most part, have sold a lot of their loan assets over the course of the last few years. And they've sold them to private credit and private equity. So our client base is completely modified. But what's interesting is there's a lot of distressed assets that are coming up because of what's going on in the economy. And Keith and I connected to just kind of compare notes, as we always have done. We've known each other for over 15 years. We always regroup and connect. And we started talking about collaborating together and how we can target these clients that don't have the expertise, perhaps, or are not set up to manage covenant defaults and all sorts of other issues that come up in their line of business. And then we brought in Tom. So I'll let Keith kind of share a little bit more about that, but that's kind of how the conversation started. And then Ponte was created.
Yeah. So as Erin said, we kind of touched out. I've worked with Erin in a couple of matters previously in the prior downturn. I think one of the reasons we found ourselves getting together, it seems like there was a little bit of a shift in the marketplace where a lot of the loans were sold to private credit. And as a result of that, what we found and what we have encountered in a few of those occasions is that there's a lot of people involved in that, but they've never been through a downturn before. It's been 17 years since we had a downturn, and the one before that was in the 80s, 20 years ago, prior to that. So you have a lot of people that have no idea what a downturn in the market is and how to work your way through that. We've been through that a couple of times and have a lot of lessons learned, if you will, things that we've learned in that process of how to navigate those problems easier. Hence, we got together and brought Tom in, and we all just started working together with the Ponte Advisors concept. Tom?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is, I think that the genesis for this combination really is to try to figure out a way to, cut through some of the bureaucratic cost and related issues associated with any type of companies in transition. And that could be a growth-oriented, company that's going through a growth spurt. It could be a company in ownership transition. It could be a company in later stage growth or restructuring transition, or it could be, severely distressed event. And typically what happens is you have a point of referral or contact from a professional that leads to, typically the unwinding of a lot of different issues that, go into addressing a given problem for a specific company. And usually what I found is, and I think that both Erin and Keith would share this view, is that, the party on the other side, which is usually the CEO or CFO, is confronted with lots of different options, alternatives, probably has never been through that before, and as such is somewhat overwhelmed. So, and one of those big issues, is the legal side and coordinating legal with all the other professional services that need to go into that situation. So this is the first attempt that I'm aware of where you're really kind of bundling a combination of, as you did a great job of, outlining on the front end, legal, financial, strategic, operational components with expertise under one umbrella, if you will, that can be delivered to a specific client. And really, it's our goal to become that client's, trusted advisor to get involved in all of the key decision making and support them in whatever process of transition they're going through.
And I think y'all make such a great point that so many, CEOs, CFOs, business owners out there, may have not seen a downturn like this, while they were running a business, and y'all are bringing that expertise, which I think is, incredibly great and absolutely true. I would love to dive into the branding and the naming of the business. I know that the word Ponte means bridge, which I think is just brilliant in how y'all named the advisory firm. But how does that name reflect the role you see your firm playing for clients navigating these transitions?
Tom, you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I mean, actually, we'll give credit to Erin for coming up with the name. But when we came together, it's really, as I mentioned earlier, an outgrowth of our own experience with clients. So, really, we're trying to assist in transition. We're bridging events in essence. So, again, it could be an early stage, company that's looking to grow to the next level, and that requires certain management expertise. It might require capital. It might require legal expertise through an offering of some sort. Might require securities expertise, or a multiplicity, thereof. And that's typically what we find. It's not just one issue. It's a number of issues. So I thought that name was particularly relevant for what we're trying to do, because essentially we're working with companies to bridge events, and again, that's really in transition. And I think that a bridge obviously also has a lot of other structural strength and underpinnings. And I think the level of experience that we bring to the table through the myriad of professional backgrounds that our team has, and obviously the experiences that we bring to the table, successes and failures, quite frankly, are helpful in that event. So I think that the name that we've come up with, or Erin proffered, is a very good one.
Absolutely. And Erin, you get the props here for coming up with that. That's incredible.
Yes.
I want to dive a little bit into your clientele. What specific groups are you working with, and what challenges are they facing that, they call you to come in and solve?
Well, our specific client base has been primarily private credit groups and family owned, funds that support loans, and that's been our focus. Private equity, not so much, but that's been kind of our focus at this point. Smaller financial institutions, because larger financial institutions are already set up for the most part to manage a lot of that. But so there's been regional banks and smaller banks, credit unions, and that's been our target market, and that's been our client base, and that's where we've been going after and been successful with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, to what just to add to what Erin mentioned, I think and Keith alluded to this earlier, there's been a lot of changes in the marketplace. Obviously, we're still in generally good economic times, but the other dynamics, related to credit issues and operational issues, have obviously changed materially, even since the last significant downturn, financial crisis in 2008, 2009. So it requires somewhat of a different type of approach. And I think experientially, again, we bring a lot of those to the table in dealing with our respective clients, whether it be on the finance side, as Erin, articulated, the hedge funds, private credit groups, small banks, credit unions, or it could be an underlying, company that we are involved with. It's a debtor, it's a borrower, or a company that's looking for a certain type of capital to grow and also additional resources. But it's definitely going to be lower to lower middle market type companies and institutions, because we think that's where the biggest need is, quite frankly. And it's really a somewhat ignored segment of the marketplace today, because a lot of firms, particularly some of the larger firms, are continuing to move up market.
Sure. And with traditional firms, turnaround firms, most of them don't have that built-in legal component. And, why was that important for you to take that different approach and blend all these things together so that you have that, legal, operational, and financial component together?
I know for the most part, and from my point of view, from the legal standpoint, clients, every time they were in these situations, when they come across these distressed issues, they're hiring all these different types of parties and their lawyers, and so they're getting, perhaps Keith and Tom and then their legal team. And then I come in as well to represent the, whoever's also in the situation. And then they're getting legal bills, that they're all paying the legal bills. So the idea was to bring under one umbrella the concept, because I think we all think the market has changed, and they're more they're looking at costs too, because we've talked to so many of our clients that we've had relationships in the past, and their biggest complaint is, I spent $2 million in legal fees and we haven't gone anywhere, and the idea is we're trying to help them not get to that point where they just are just paying fees and don't know why and not seeing results, where our goal is to try to perhaps get in on the front end, look at it from a legal standpoint, business standpoint, real estate, strategic standpoint, based on industry specific issues, and address them so they don't cross the bridge and go into transition where all the wheels are coming off and everyone's glorying up. And obviously we're capable of handling that if it gets there, but the idea is to prevent that from happening. And again, so that's cost efficiency, I think is definitely in mind here, because we do believe the market has changed, and clients from all sorts, especially in the target market that we're looking for, the middle market, that's what they're interested in. And results, of course.
It's the cost. And that was one of the lessons we learned back when it was hitting last time. The lenders that we were going in and working for, they didn't even know what the problems were. It was just moving fast. I've got to make this go away. And what can you do? And coming out of all that, it was a common theme about costs and managing the costs. And ultimately, having that in-house counsel, one of the other things it allows us to do on the front end is to truly assess the problem, look at the different avenues, what are the more cost-effective or the more successful ways of doing it. And so we're able to analyze that before we even get started, where, in the private world, if we were to go dial up an attorney and say, wait, look, we've got this problem, we need your answer, that clock's starting to tick. We think this is very comprehensive, and it's going to address some of the concerns that lenders had in the prior downturn.
And corporations as well, for that matter. So,
yeah.
And there's a trust, I think, too, from having it all under one umbrella. We're all looking at it from different eyes, considering our experience and backgrounds, but under the same roof. So you don't have issues where you're going back and forth to different companies to ask questions.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think and just briefly, I think it's really important to understand that most turnaround firms, particularly large ones, in a lot of cases are retained to essentially tell a lender or another party what they already know. It's really a CYA type issue as opposed to a problem solving issue. And Erin's spot on. So is Keith. I mean, our focus is really trying to get involved earlier, address and solve or help to solve the problem to create a success story, as opposed to generating a lot of fee income for various professionals without any real results. And I would challenge particularly a lot of the firms out there that are focused in that area, to disclose more about their success ratio as opposed to the number of cases or situations they get involved with, because I think you'd find a pretty sobering statistic about the relative failures versus successes that most of those firms are involved with.
Wow. That's incredible. And I think, one thing that one of you said, I think maybe it was Erin, it is a huge trust factor to have three perspectives working together on the same team versus the back and forth, not only with cost, but you're all working towards the same goal, working together towards that, which is, absolutely huge. I'm curious with all of your experience and, going through downturns before, weathering a lot of storms, as you might say, throughout careers and businesses, what type of characteristics do you feel, are most set up for success in these scenarios when it comes to the CEOs, the CFOs, or the executive teams that you're working with?
I'll let Tom answer that probably.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think first and foremost, receptivity and transparency. I mean, if I think 9 times out of 10, if you get involved with a situation, and a lot of times in the past, there are, like we might mention, different referral points. So you may get referred into a situation that is somewhat hostile to an outside party, coming in. So number one rule is don't take on or don't get involved with a client that doesn't like you and isn't open in receiving the information you want to provide to them. And then secondly, And equally importantly is transparency. I mean, they have to be, and this is a big jump, but they have to be open and honest in their approach to sharing information, not just books and records, but, more importantly, culturally, what's going on. And, so you can better understand what the real problem is. Because again, everybody says that their problem for the most part, is money. So all we need to do is raise X dollars and, we'll be fine. Well, in my experience, at least, 95% of the time, that's absolutely not true. And there's a fundamental issue or problem below that, or a series of problems below that, which created the financial crisis that led us or other parties to get involved. So I think, you have to have an honest, transparent, kind of mutually receiving type relationship with a client. And identifying on that on the front end is not necessarily very easy, because in most of these cases, you have a limited amount of time, because you've got a patient that's in the waiting room for the emergency room. In essence, in a lot of cases. And so to make that assessment is very, very difficult. But in my experience, that's been where we've had most success, where we've had a good back and forth in those types of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think it's communication, Paige, too. Communication, being able to communicate effectively. That's, I think, another reason why the three of us have been so successful in getting together to do this, is because we all are able to communicate with people and get information. Sometimes that's a skill set that not everybody has.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, looking ahead, what would you say is your bigger vision for Ponte Advisors?
Scale it. Scale it. And, work and continue just to grow the concept and get the concept out there to companies, and potentially, obviously, if, merging with a larger company at some point, perhaps. But at this point, my goal and all of our goals is to scale this and just help other companies, financial institutions, lenders, non-traditional lenders, private credit, all the markets that are coming up even more so every day, just simply because of the change in the economy, and try to grow with them, because we're small and we're able to make changes to accommodate their needs quickly and easily. And those are decisions that we can make easily. And that's the idea, is to scale that and be able to hit the markets and then grow. And we're only focusing really at this point on just a few industries, but perhaps as we continue to scale, we can grow and focus on more to help more as the issues come up.
And I think that growth is something that you always want to do, but you want to do it cautiously as you grow. I've seen all too often companies, they get big fast, and they lose that very core thing that brought them to the business to begin with. And it just starts being unmanageable in a lot of instances. And then you start getting dissatisfied clients because you really weren't controlling what was happening out there for them. And, you really only have to have one negative report from a client, and it's a death wish at that point. So I think, as Erin said, scaling it and being smart in our scaling of, no, we probably don't want to grow to be some huge publicly traded company. No, we want to be our core, and we have a lot of different resources that are at our fingertips that we can call upon that will get us through that and keep it very, very manageable.
Absolutely. And there are two questions that I love to ask every entrepreneur who comes on this series. And so I'd love for each of you to answer in your own way these questions. But the first is, who are you in addition to being an entrepreneur?
Well, I'll go first. I'm obviously a lawyer, but I enjoy the entrepreneur piece of my practice, obviously, because I started my own firm 25 years ago, and Stark is still here, and we're growing, and we continue to grow. And as the economy changes, we're growing with it and making changes with it. And the entrepreneur piece allows me to also be able to hook up with, Keith and Tom and create Ponte and who knows where that goes, is with respect to what other avenues of ventures that we can go into depending on what the client's needs are. And that's the exciting part, is just being open and able to do that. And then obviously I've got a good space with family, and I'm very involved in and my alumni, which is Southern Methodist University, and my children are both there. So, and I'm a Texan, so it's wonderful to keep going back there. And that's having companies and working with people like Keith and Tom, and having my family and being able to, go back to my alma mater and be involved on the board, the executive board, is very fulfilling for me.
For me, I think one of the important things that speaks to who I am, I want to work with people I like. And it's a very important thing. We're at that point in life where we've gone through a lot of different things. And again, we've learned a lot. And there's just, when you're working with people that you like, it's just makes it a joy. You enjoy doing it. You have fun doing it. And that's really important. Probably one of the things that's, the biggest thing in my life right now. I'm a very lucky person. My son lives 15 minutes from me.
Oh, wow.
Has these two crazy boys that are just a blast to hang around with. So I'm enjoying being a grandfather. At first, I thought it was, frightening. I'm not old enough to do that, but I've become old enough lately, it seems like. But that's a big part of my world outside of work. And again, it speaks to that whole thing. You want to be working with people you enjoy working with. We have fun what we do, and we enjoy it, one another's company, and that makes it very much worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo what both Erin and Keith said. Husband and father, and recent grandfather as well. So that's a big part of where my time is obviously spent outside of what we do here, and I'm heavily involved in a number of not-for-profit related activities and boards. But I think the overall theme, is Keith outlined, is spot on. I mean, it's got to be fun. And it's always heartwarming to be able to help somebody out. And I think in a lot of what we do, we add value and provide hopefully assistance to a lot of people that are struggling to find it anywhere, let alone on some sort of a cost-effective basis. And so, until such time that this stops being fun, we'll continue to do it. At that point, we'll figure out something else to do.
Right.
Hey, I have to tell you, it's been super exciting for me at this stage of my life to join forces with Keith and Tom, because they are wonderful people. And we've, I think Warren Buffett had a comment where he said, don't ever try to force to work with someone that you don't like, that doesn't like you, because you will regret it, and you'll spend more time trying to get away from them than you would anything else. So, we've all learned our lessons over the years trying to have forced relationships with certain clients, because we wanted to make it work. And that is the beauty of obviously growing up and being older and having that wisdom and learning from those lessons and those mistakes. And that is that's what we're excited about. And I think that's the piece. I think that's most rewarding for me with this, is they're, working with great people and focusing on working with people that we enjoy working with and helping them mostly. And that's why we created Ponte.
Absolutely. And I love all of your perspectives on this, because as you can see there, it's very unique what, each person's, how they see themselves. And the last question I have for you each is, what is the impact that you want to have at the end of every single day?
For me, coming from an attorney standpoint, oftentimes it's a thankless job. I don't get a lot of thank yous, even though I know we've successfully won. But I would, I'm more and more these days, the client base, because I changed who my client base were, and who I'm working with, and I'm getting more of the thank yous. And that's the piece that is very fulfilling. And that's, again, why Ponte was created, was we really, truly want to take all our expertise and put it together and help the folks that we've worked with over the, course of our careers as well, and help them look good, and as well as others. And so the idea of helping people is the impact at the end of the day that I just want to make, doing my best to just work with good people, have good conversations, and, professional and personal relationships and continue that to grow. And that's my greatest end of my day.
I love that.
So I would say we want to deliver a product, if you will, that is well received and needed, and it solves problems. I think that's what, if you really get down to what do, we solve problems. And that's what our job is, very simply. And you want to do it with honesty, transparency, and integrity that you can just set on it. You're bringing these people, the trust issue Erin talked about, we're bringing that sort of honesty, integrity that builds that trust. And you hope, and this is what happened the other time, there's people you work with and they just, they're like, gosh, I've got to have you do it again. That you guys did a great job. It was fun working with you and all that. And then, there's the whole add value to it. I don't want to do something that's just a burden to it. I want to add some value. That goes back to my growing up in New Orleans, being born in New Orleans. There's a word called lagniappe. And lagniappe is a little French word that means a little bit extra. And that's what you want to do at the end of the day, just that little bit extra that people aren't getting anywhere else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, again, don't want to pile on to my colleagues, but I think that it's well said. I think at the end of the day, it's about, as my dad always says, to try to put a smile on somebody's face, to resolve a problem that hadn't been resolved before, and to try to the end of the day with peace. So hopefully we can do something to add value, to somebody else's business and or life. And that would be the most important thing, that we do in conversations with clients. And a lot of what we do doesn't result in a quote unquote tangible win or loss. A lot of it's just collegial interaction, along the way, if you will, that hopefully provides a new idea, or some sort of additive component to somebody's day. So that's the joy I have, is being able to talk to a lot of people, experience a lot of different types of issues and scenarios, and hopefully at the end of the day, bring whatever experiential and other value I can to their situation. Hopefully it makes them feel a little bit better.
I love this. And thank you all again for being on all together, because I feel like we have the triple threat or the trifecta here where there's just so much wonderful perspective, experience, wisdom that the entrepreneurs, business owners that are listening to this are going to get from this episode. So I cannot thank you enough. If somebody wants to reach out and get a hold of you, wants to inquire working with you, how do they best do that?
They can call my work number. It's 404-835-2729.
Amazing. So y'all heard it here. I'll also put it in the show notes. So it's there. If you want to reach out and contact Tom, Erin, Keith, and just inquire more about what they're doing with Ponte Advisors. But thank you all so much again, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Paige.